Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. And you've reached Black Authors Matter TV. It's February 14th. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight. And I'm Dr. You made me lose my train of thought, along with my co-host.
Hey, you have to keep it fun around here, you know.
You're right. We can be serious. So you didn't say your name.
Oh, I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Co-host. Thank you all for tuning in. And we, again, have an amazing show for tonight. So a couple of housekeeping notes, and then we're going to be giving books away later on. But the registration for the National Black Book Festival for 2023 is open. If you plan to attend, make sure you register and put down your deposit. We're in the early bird stages right now. We have excellent registration. So we do expect to sell out. So if you want to attend, all you have to put down is a $50 deposit if you're an author, and you don't have to pay the balance until July 31st. So you have plenty of time. So we do have our first guest in the waiting room, and we're going to be giving her book away. This is her book, but I'm going to admit her. Her name is Tracy Rose Peyton, and this is her book, Night Wherever We Go.
Lovely cover.
And we're going to be giving the book away after the end of the interview. And I read the book, so I'm well versed on the storyline and everything. So we're going to be giving that away to a viewer who answers a trivia question. But we're not going to give the trivia question until we get ready to give it away. So Tracy, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your book release. When did the book come out? Which day? What's
January 3rd.
Okay, so it's been out about a month.
Thank you. It's so lovely to be here with you guys.
Yeah. How have you gotten any feedback about sales and your reviews and so forth?
I've gotten a little bit about the first couple of weeks of sales, which we're doing okay. It's kind of nerve-wracking.
I saw it recently when I went on a trip to Barnes and Noble. So it was on. They have those display tables in the middle, and they had it for Black History Month, and your book was there. I said, "Oh, I know her." So, so tell us about Night Wherever We Go, and what inspired you to develop the storyline that you did. Sure. And just tell the audience about the setting and all that. I read it, so I want it to come from you.
Okay, feel free to jump in. So Night Wherever We Go is about a group of enslaved African-American women brought to the Texas frontier by a struggling farmer and his wife in the early 1850s. When the land doesn't yield as expected, the plantation owners turn their attention to the women's fertility. And they want to use that to turn the farm's bleak financial prospects around by forcing the women to bear children. So the couple hires a stockman we know what a stockman is, right? To impregnate them. In response, the women wage a covert rebellion, and they use herbal abortives to control the birth rate and maintain some degree of autonomy over their lives. It's a story about resistance, but to me, it's also really a story about sisterhood and the interior lives of enslaved women.
What inspired you to tell this particular story?
I think partly, I think I had read Dorothy Roberts' Killing the Black Body. If no one's read it, read it. It's amazing. And she was really kind of drawing a through line, I think, between things that were happening to our ancestors and to kind of what was happening around the conversations around problematic, mothers, right? The conversation of like incentivizing women to go on welfare with birth control, the kind of abuses that happened with stuff like Depo-Provera and Norplant back, like I think in like the 90s, sterilizations, right? The Mississippi appendectomy. And so she's drawing a through line between all these things that are happening. And I think at the time, I think I was reading that book and trying to figure out like why, how we got to the place that we were, where it's like, you go into a Planned Parenthood and it's like going into Fort Knox. And so I think in doing some reading and just trying to kind of make sense of it for myself, I was reading Paula Giddings' When and Where I Enter, and she tells this anecdote from an 1860 medical journal. And so the story is kind of based on like a real thing where there were a group of women on a plantation in Tennessee. And this particular slaveholder kept between 4 and 6 enslaved women at any point. Sorry, I think that's me. And what he kept between 4 and 6 enslaved women. And for 20 years, these women controlled the birth rate. So that whenever he tried to kind of quote unquote swap out one woman with another, the birth rate remained unchanged. And for like 20 years, I think only 2 children were born. Mm-hmm. And they found out that an elder had been giving the women an herbal remedy to kind of help them kind of like stave off basically forced reproduction. So I read that and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And I was just like,
yeah, that's something that just doesn't leave your mind very easily.
Mm-hmm. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, in the archives, women are unnamed. We just have a footnote. We're trying to get it, you don't have a sense of like what happened to that woman before or after or any of that. So I was just curious about what those women's lives must have been like and how did they come to that decision together and what tensions they might have had between each other in terms of trying to maintain a resistance like that for as long as they did.
Yeah, women use herbs. Excuse me. Some guy caught my throat as soon as I started talking. So you go ahead, Ron.
Well, I was just going to say, when you mentioned the tensions that may have been going on between them, I can imagine that they could have easily competed against each other and had strife against each other instead of banding together. Mm-hmm. But this is a story of how it happens and the power that happens when you can band together.
For sure. And I think I feel like it makes our stories more complex to understand those tensions, right? To understand that we all didn't get along all the time, right? And that to me, that makes a more complex story to understand, what it took for us to agree to do something like that together, and what people were giving up in doing so.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the storyline really brought to my mind how our ancestors, the ones that were women, really weren't allowed to be women. Mm. They weren't allowed to do the normal things that women do, get married, have children, take care of your own children from birth till they grow up and, marry or do something. There was always a fear of it being a real fear and danger of that whole process being interrupted. As demonstrated by, and I read a lot of books, and so I've read 2 or 3 since this one, and I just read this one a month ago, but the little boy who belonged to one of the women, and he ended up being more connected to the master's wife because of the favor he received by doing so than his own mother. He ended up making a choice which doesn't allow you to be a real mother to your children. Mm. So that whole situation intergenerationally just is a nightmare. And people had to figure out how to cope. They had to generate coping mechanisms just to figure out how to live, however long that was, because that, death was always something that was always something you could happen anytime for just a frivolous reason.
For sure, for sure.
So you wrote it such that I was sad the whole book. I don't know if that was supposed to be the case, but I was, it made me sad. It was real. It was very real. And you wrote it very real, but I was sad the whole book. And, that just made me think that our ancestors' lives were, a lot of it were sadness. It's just.
I mean, I hope there was some joy. I mean, I tried to provide a little bit of
Well, the joy was with them getting one over on the slave master.
Yeah, for sure.
That was where he couldn't figure out why, I don't want to give away all the storyline, but that was, they did figure out a workaround for that. And I was reading another book recently too. Either I read the book before this book or right after. Like I said, I've been reading quite a bit, but they talked about how women use herbs to keep from getting pregnant. But this was after, the setting for this book was like the 1930s maybe, where women used certain herbs as birth control, because otherwise, women would be having a child every year.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think what's super interesting to me was, when I was doing research and, that one of the historical sources, captures this particular article in a medical journal, and the historian Herbert Gutman, what he really does is he puts in context that these battles weren't isolated. So even though I'm focusing on this one particular incident, the battles between enslaved women and slaveholders, this was an ongoing thing, and you were using whatever herbivores were available to you. So even if if you weren't using cotton root because you weren't working on that particular cash crop, or people were using tansy, they were using rue. If you were kind of closer on the East Coast, they were using camphor. And sometimes you can read in the accounts of enslaved people, and like some of the Rawick series, where there's a man who was, I guess he was a kid on a Texas plantation, and he talked about how the women chewed cotton root so often, like just not blatantly, of course, but they chewed it so much. He was like, I'm surprised we're still here. He was like, I'm surprised that we continue to generate families, because he was like, the practice, especially on the eve of the Civil War, like in the late 1850s, it's just like women were doing it all the time at this point. Because there were a lot of women who were basically at this point where it's like, I was so inspired by women who were basically like, I'm only going to have 3 children. I'm not having babies under the system. I'm waiting until emancipation and then I'll have children. And so there were women who, like in their accounts, they considered themselves having cheated the master, because after emancipation, they had 3 or 4 children, but never had children under slavery. But at the same time, I don't want to romanticize that, in the sense that, if you were considered barren, it was dangerous for you. You could be, those women were sold. Yeah, those women were sold off more often, often ripped away from their families. And so I don't want to romanticize the choice that some women made. That was a hard choice.
No, it was a Hobson's choice. Yeah. It's 2 bad choices.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, so
I guess that's what brings me to my question, because the book actually will take a person through a lot of emotions. Gwen said that she was sad throughout the book. So I can imagine the emotions that may have gone through your mind as you were writing the book and doing the research for this, because I'm sure that wasn't an easy process either.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I will say, because I know there's a lot of context around people, where people don't want to pick up a book that is going to require them to be sad.
Right.
No, it was extremely well written, and the character development was great.
If it's going to,
I just was like almost in tears.
If it's going to bring out that type of emotion, whether it's sadness, whether it's anger, whether it's excitement, if it's going to bring out the emotion, that's a testament to the power of your writing.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
It
no,
is.
I appreciate. No, I appreciate that.
And it wasn't a slow read. You know, some books are a slow read. No, I read it pretty quickly, so it gripped me. And it gripped my emotions. It just made me really think a lot
Mm,
about our ancestors and just the horrible choices that they were living under. Now, what made you call the plantation owner Lucy? What made you? I know it stands for Lucifer, but what made you do that? That was
I
like a twist.
I read an account where an formerly enslaved Black woman talked about. She called her Pastor Lucy. She was like after Lucifer, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh,
um,
okay.
I
Wow.
think
Okay.
yeah. So I think for me, part of it is trying to bring that language, some of that to bring some of that language into the book, but also to me, it's kind of like I feel like a lot of stories about our ancestors are kind of flat and they don't include the wit and the humor and like the way that Black people cope with things, like our oral tradition. um Again, just the way an older Black woman will cut you with her tongue, like you've been struck with a razor blade, you know what I mean? That like we that's not new, like we didn't
Right.
come up with that, like that came from them.
Mhm.
Even if there were certain ways they couldn't always share that. So I wanted to bring those things into the book. And I feel like there is like part of the places where I tried to focus on joy was these spaces of like frolic, right? When enslaved people would go out into the woods and they would have parties with each other, and
Right.
dance and like dance and court each other and woo each other and like you know try to have some autonomy and build relationships and love and affairs and steal other people's man, all of that kind of messy stuff. But I feel like
You
that
did
just
have
makes
that in there
yeah.
where they were um the man that they might be with, their love interest, not the slave master. They might be from another plantation, but that guy, he might have a family at the other plantation, or
Mhm.
you know, an outside family. Even though that's what they used to call it, but
Yeah.
but a baby mama on so the love story that you have in there that you wove in, that was I enjoyed that as well. And like I said, I don't want to give away all the specifics, because like we want people to read the story, but there is a love story in there between two people, and the challenges of being in love as a slave,
Mhm. Mhm.
and
And that's
just
a challenge in and of itself.
mhm.
Yeah.
um you had to get what you could when you could, because
Mm.
tomorrow really wasn't promised. I mean, it's in a lot of different ways.
I imagine the people who just tried to avoid falling in love altogether because
Mhm.
they knew the dangers that went along with it. Either you're going to see your family torn apart, or you're going to see your loved one beaten or raped, and many times they don't want to go through that emotion, so maybe they chose not to love at all.
For sure.
Yeah, but being in love is a natural human emotion.
You know,
So
it is, but there are people.
even under bad circumstances.
Yeah, you can even look at now. There are people who refuse to fall in love, and often, if they do find themselves getting close to someone, they'll do what they can to sabotage that and move away because they don't want to go through the emotion that goes along with being in love. We see that even today.
For sure. For sure. There's one couple in the book. There's a character named Patience who was married and her husband was free. And when
Mhm.
she is moved to Texas, he tries to follow her. And but their relationship kind of can't take the strain of what happens under, basically under slavery and under this new master that she's with. Um, and that's those kind of things are thinking about how people had like, what they call mixed status marriage, where, someone's free and someone's not. And
Right.
how that change, what kind of strain on that marriage, what kind of strain that places on marriage. And also, but I think the other part of that too is that I was just so inspired by the amount of things people would do to stay together, where people were, men would walk across 3 states trying to, reconnect with their wife and kids.
Right.
Or right, or like, or I forget, I can't remember which narrative I read this, but people who were, together, and then, someone's master moved, and, they would only see each other 2 or 3 times a year when that master would come back and visit his family who was owned by the other. And that people maintain marriages that way, or try their best to maintain marriages that way. And I think to me, that's so inspiring, that like how far people are willing to go to keep their relationship solid or keep their families together in any way that they could. And sometimes I feel like it almost ends up being a statement about how almost how quick we are now to discard, relationships and things. When you look at like how much people were willing to do to kind of keep their families together, to stay with their wives, to stay with their husbands, come hell or high water.
Right. One of the, and this is not a new book, but it's a book that when you mentioned that, it's a book called Freeman by Leonard Pitts. I don't know if you ever read it, but in that book, the storyline is that after slavery, a man walked like 1,000 miles to find his wife, and just the harrowing experience he had to go through to do that. So, yes, I think maybe if people read more books that make them understand what our ancestors had to go through for love, they would look at it differently. Because they really went through a lot so we could be here.
Oh, for sure.
They went through a lot. Now, your title, Night Wherever We Go, where'd that come from?
That kind of came late, because I think my original title, I had to change it.
Okay.
And so I had to come up with another title kind of very late. So that's kind of one of the the ones I had to share with my editor. But I think for me, I think if people are asking what it means, I think it means many things, and I'm open to interpretations. But
it's to be a metaphor. And it's actually is vague but specific at the same time.
And I feel like it's kind of about that thing where it's like the night to me is full of so many things, right? It's full of harrowing things, yes, but it's also the space when the women are away from surveillance, and it's a space where they go to frolics and dance with each other. It's a space where they go into the woods to pray with each other. It's a space where someone sneaks off to see a lover,
or tries to escape,
right? So it's all those things, and it's I feel like I think about that. What do we say in the Baptist tradition, right? Joy comes in the morning. So it's kind of like
for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Yeah. And so, but it's that, I think the Buddhists have that saying where it's like, but wherever you go, you take yourself with you. You take, whatever stuff you had, you take it with you. And so it's like the same, where it's like the night comes with us wherever.
Okay. Now, what's your background? Are you academic?
No. I'm trying to figure out how to say that. Yeah, no, I'm not academic. I work in film currently. And
you work in film
currently?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear it.
I thought I work in film currently.
Okay.
But
that's still storytelling.
Yeah, that's storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah. So this wasn't new to you.
No, I mean, I've been I've been around or been trying to make stories for a long time.
So this isn't your first novel, is it? It's your first novel? It is your first novel. Okay. So your debut, you really tackled a challenging topic,
right?
But in such a well-written way.
I was going to say the same thing. It's a big undertaking for this to be your first book, and for you to delve so deeply into such a heavy topic with so many layers to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that's why it took me so long. I feel like other people do I don't know which way is the quote unquote smarter way, but I feel like other people often do a thing where they pick a smaller story to do as the first novel, so you can get your feet under you in terms of craft, and then take on a bigger.
Ta-Nehisi Coates said it took him 10 years to write his book.
Yeah, I think this is definitely about the same. I mean, at least, and I think I probably had read those historical anecdotes a few years before that. So, definitely around around the same time.
Yeah, a lot of people's first novels take a long time.
Mhm.
And we've interviewed a lot of authors on this show. It's like when after they do their first one, then the gates are open and then they can do more. But some of them sit on the novels. They do. I mean, it took me 5 years to write my first and only novel. I have other books, but I only have one novel. And it took me 5 years. And 3 of those years were dormant. It's like I wrote 3 chapters and put it in a drawer. And then 3 years later, I said, well, let me look at it. And then I kept going. It took me 2 years to finish. But writing is, some people, I admire people. I really envy people who seem to just like rattle off books like every 3 months. They can do 50,000 words every 3 months. As far as a novel, like a made up story, now I can do research-based things fast, but making up people and settings and dialogue and all that, and they can rattle off a book in 90 days or 6 months or less. Some people can do it in 30 days.
On the type of book, but I think a fiction book should take a little longer because it's more than just writing down a story. We're talking characterization, we're talking about description. You have to know a little bit about where the story is taking place, because if you write a story that takes place in New Orleans and you get the facts wrong, or you give me a whole bunch of stereotypes, I get mad at the book. I'm like,
yeah, that's true, because you say that's not true. Or if you have something in a book, I read a book recently where it was set in the 60s, and they said they were listening to some music on a cassette. There were not cassettes in the 60s. So, things like that, especially if you're doing something period, a period book where, those kind of details have to match up with the time period that you're in.
For sure. Yeah, I'm not fast. I'm definitely not fast either. So like, I understand the envy you were saying about people who can crank out things fast.
Like, how did they do that? So we're getting close to the end of our time, and I wanted to give the book away. Now, you actually, the question that I have for my trivia question, you actually answered it at the top of the show. But people, if they were listening, they will get it. So the question is, the plantation owners decide to improve their bleak financial prospects. This is this book, Tracy Rose Peyton and His Night, Wherever We Go. So the plantation owners try to improve their bleak financial prospects by forcing the slave women to do what? So the first person who answers on the chat, and Rhonda will be checking, then you get a copy. And this is a book. This isn't an art. This isn't an advanced reading copy. This is the actual hardcover book. So you get your copy. And whoever answers first can get it. So Tracy, what else do you have, like in our 1 minute that we have left? What what do you have coming up? Do you have another book that you're working on?
As I said, I'm slow, so it's going to be a little bit of a while, probably before y'all hear from me again.
Okay, well, you can bask in the success of this one for a while. This is really good. And it would actually, since you're in film, I could see this as a movie or a series. So now that we have Netflix and Hulu, and they're making movies about all kinds of different things, I can see it as one.
Well, we already got an answer to the question.
Who answered it?
It's somebody different. The Celebrate Maya Project. She said, have more children.
Oh, okay. Well, what you need to do, whoever celebrate the whatever you said.
Maya Project.
Okay. What you need to do, because you're a first-time book winner on the show, you need to DM us your name and address so we can mail you your book, and it'll go out this week. So DM the National Black Book Festival's Facebook message and you'll get your copy of the book. Congratulations. And I'm glad somebody knew, because a lot of times we have the same winners every week. So
Oh,
yeah,
it's
there's
not
some
somebody
people
new.
who will always win a book. Like, it's like it rotates between about 10 different people.
It's not somebody new. It's Janice Kearney.
Another name.
Yeah, she's under another name.
Cheating. That's cheating.
That's hilarious. Well, Janice, we have your name already and address. So, Tracy, thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV. Congratulations on an amazing book, and continued success with your writing and your next project.
Thank you, Yuan. Thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you. You have a great night.
All right, you too.
Okay, that was Night Wherever We Go by Tracy Rose Peyton. And so we have one other book that we're going to be giving away. And this is it here. I've given away several of these already, but we have a different trivia. Family Business 6 is out. So if you get Family Business 2, then that gives you a point where you can start and then keep going and get 6, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But the question for this book, this is a hardcover. What HBCU did the author Carl Weber graduate from for his bachelor's degree? So he went to an HBCU for undergraduate. What's the name of the school? Carl Weber. So whoever answers that gets the book. And I did also, before we bring on our next guest, I wanted to share some books that I recently received from people who've been on the show. First, I got a copy of Driving the Green Book. Alvin Hall was on the show a couple of weeks ago about the Green Book. Had an amazing interview. So I got my own copy of that. I also got a copy of Before I Let Go by Kennedy Ryan. She was on the show, I want to say maybe a couple of months ago. But I haven't started it yet. But our book club picked this book for our March book. So the book, one of the book clubs I'm in. So I wanted to read that. And I got my copy of The House of Eve. This is the book we're reading for our book club kickback. It's by Sadiqa Johnson. It's March 14th is when we have the kickback. So for those of you all who want to read along and discuss the book, it's also Reese Witherspoon's book club book. So that's really big for her. And I'm going to wait and read this because I want to have read it right before the show. When I read it, I don't want to have a bunch of other books in my mind when we have the discussion. So one other thing before we bring on our next guest, Rhonda, do you want to give just an update on your event coming up next weekend? Not this weekend, but next weekend.
Well, sure. The Black History Month Literary Weekend will be February 23rd through the 25th here in the DMV. On the 23rd, we will have a welcome social. On the 24th, we are visiting 2 high schools, and then we're going to have a book chat and book signing at the Barnes & Noble in Bowie, Maryland. And that's going to start at 4 p.m. So if you're in the area, come on out and meet the authors. And on the 25th will be our Ivory and Cream Affair, which is going to be a literary jazz brunch. We're going to be featuring authors. We'll have live music. We're going to have a 3-course gourmet meal. We'll have a mimosa bar, a silent auction. It's going to be an amazing event. We're also going to be awarding the winners of our essay contest. We do an 8th and 9th grade essay contest each year for Black History Month. And we will be announcing the winners tomorrow, but we're going to award the winners at the brunch. So that's going to be really fun. And then to top the whole thing off, our guest speaker will be Lisa McNair, who has been on the show before. She is the sister of Denise McNair, who was one of the Birmingham 4, the 4 little girls who were killed in the Birmingham church bombing. So there's going to be a lot going on. We're talking scholarships. We're talking impacting our youth. We're talking celebrating literacy. It's going to be a very beautiful event. Ticket sales end tomorrow. So if you are in the DMV and you're planning on being at the Ivory and Cream Affair. If you want to go to the Barnes and Noble event, that one is free. But if you want to go to the Ivory and Cream Affair, the tickets in tomorrow. So don't waste any more time. Go ahead and get your tickets. Let's have a great time, celebrate literacy, and support these amazing authors. We have authors coming from all over the country to be here, and I am so excited to see everybody. So I'm looking forward to a great event.
Now, did you get our package from?
Did. Thank you
Okay.
so much. And each of the students will receive a copy of the book. And I think and it's the 23rd, or I say 2013, the 2023 copy. I was so excited to receive that, and the card.
And the gift card. So that's from Black Authors Matter TV. We have we did an American Express gift card to give away as a door prize. So we're excited to do that and support Rhonda's event, since I wasn't able to attend in person. And let me just, since you mentioned the book,
Yes,
it's out now. And if you want to know how to go to college debt free, this is it. My book that was nominated for an Image Award. So we're going to bring on our next guest, Elmo Hudson. And he's been on the show before. And Mr. Hudson has a book called First Survival of Alzheimer's. And he said this happened with the Holy Spirit. And Mr. Hudson was in attendance at the 2022 National Black Book Festival. So I got to meet him in person. And I'm not sure if his wife came with him or not. I think he might have been by himself. But when he comes on camera, he'll let us know that.
I'm not sure.
Was his wife with him?
I feel like she was, but I could be remembering wrong. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel like she might have been too. And if you all hear some background noise, I hope you don't, because I'm hoping my microphone is picking up my voice. Okay, great. That's why I went off camera for a second. I'm trying to remedy my smoke alarm dinging every minute.
Oh,
and
I hate when that happens. That's happened to me, and you try to ignore it, but you can't.
Yeah, you can't. And I open my window in here. I open the window so some air will come in. It'll stop. But I'm glad that my microphone is picking up my voice. So that makes me happy. So I'm waiting on Mr. Hudson to come on.
He just popped in and then he left again.
Oh, I had turned away.
I think he's still there, but his box is black.
Yeah, oh, well, he's muted.
His camera on.
He's muted. So did anybody? Oh, I think I hear.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh yeah. Oh my.
It's a black box.
Oh, black box.
Do you have your camera on?
I don't know. Let's see. Record. Let's see. Yeah, come here. Yeah, try to the camera on. Trying to get the camera on.
We had some questions online while he's coming on. The deadline. Oh, you answered that question.
Yeah,
about the
I
tickets.
answered her question about the deadline, which is tomorrow to buy tickets, and I sent her the link. But Gwendolyn also answered the second trivia question.
She did. I see that. So Gwendolyn Hayes wins the Carl Weber book. So Gwen, your copy will be in the mail to you. Let me write these things down, because I don't want to trust them to memory.
I know there's a camera on there. I don't see a camera in here.
See, the camera should be on your laptop if you have a laptop.
Yeah, he's on his desktop, and there's not a camera up here, I don't believe. It would be right at the very top, right?
Well, I don't know where it is on the desktop.
I don't know what type of camera you have, but yeah, normally the camera
would be at the top.
Desktop, if you have one on your desktop, it would be at the top.
I don't see one up here.
Okay, he may have the kind of desktop that doesn't have a camera.
Yeah.
Is it possible to log out and log back in on your phone, maybe, so we can see you?
Okay, he just went up to get the desktop.
Okay.
So.
Well, we can't see him.
Yeah, he's.
Is it possible to do it on a cell phone?
Yeah. Let's see.
Then we'll be able to see him.
Okay.
I mean, we can do it, but it's
let's
because it's not radio, because it's not an audio show, it's a visual show. It's better if we can see his face while we're talking. So
We can
You
just
could
do it
use
on
the
the
same
phone.
link on the email. If you go to your email, you use the same link
I didn't
on your
realize there
cell phone.
wasn't a camera on here. Hold on.
So Mr. Hudson, one thing about him, I want people to know he's a former boxing champion. And I believe he boxed in he's a Michigan capital city. He was a
What date
boxer of the
was that?
year.
What date was that email?
And I just put his link in the
11.
in the chat. Boxer of the year.
Yeah, he won the first time. He won 3 state Golden Globe boxing championships in the same weight division. And I think he was a featherweight. I think he told me that because I don't see it on this bio. But
Yes, I was a featherweight.
Featherweight.
Yeah, 126 pound featherweight. The third U.S.
Oh.
Army boxing champion.
Okay, see, I remember you told me you were a featherweight.
Yeah, 125 in the Army and 126 in the civilian.
Oh,
army.
126. That's pretty. That is light.
Yes, right. Yeah.
So and he says he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2012.
623.
And normally it's incurable, and also many times it is can be a devastating illness for people.
Right.
But he said he was healed, and he had proof, medical proof that he was healed by the Holy Spirit. So I want to hear about how he what was his process for asking for healing, and how long before it manifested, or how long before it manifested, and then how long before he went to the doctor to be re-examined. So we'd like to know that. So if we aren't able to get a picture on the phone, we can just do the audio and go with that.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and do the audio, because I want to make sure you have time to do your interview and tell your story.
Right. Right. So Mr. Hudson, are you there? Okay, are you close to the sound source, your microphone?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I can hear you pretty well.
Yeah, right.
So first tell us a little bit about your boxing career and how long you were a boxer, and you know, you had 3 Golden Gloves, but at what age did you start boxing, and how long did you do it?
Well, I started boxing in 1964. I took state champion my first year, and I boxed for 5 years altogether. And I was the 3rd U.S. Army boxing champion also, and nominated for the Army boxing team at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Fort Campbell, Kentucky, 1967. Prior to being shipped to Cameron Bay, Vietnam.
Okay, how old were you when you were boxing?
I think I started when I was 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm.
And you were in the military as well?
Yes, I was drafted in the Vietnam War.
Oh, you were drafted during the, did you go to Vietnam?
Oh yeah, Cameron Bay, Vietnam, and Fan Thiet, Vietnam. Went by shell, 24 days on the Pacific Ocean.
Oh, okay. So did you learn to box in the military, or were you boxing before?
No, I boxed prior to being drafted in the military war, Vietnam War.
And did you continue to box after you joined the military?
Yeah, I boxed in the military. Yeah, I was featherweight champion at Fort McClellan in Anderson, Alabama. And then went to the All-Army boxing team at Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And I was nominated for All-Army boxing team there. And then a few months later, I was got my orders to be shipped to Cameron Bay, Vietnam.
Wow, well, I've been to Fort Campbell as well as Fort McPherson.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Yes.
So, Rob, I want to know, where haven't you been as far as Army installations?
There are a lot of Army installations I haven't been to.
You've been to a lot. So, so once you left the military, because there's a gap in your bio, What did you do for all those years between being out of boxing and out of the military and until you were diagnosed with Alzheimer's?
Oh, I boxed right out of service in April 1st of 1968. Yeah, and I boxed, and I was champion there. And I've been on a couple of shows. I was on Al Martin of Current Sports on WKAR at Michigan State University. They wanted to know how I became Michigan Capital City first African American boxer of the year, and awarded a new Evanescence Appreciation Trophy to the person that was in charge of it from 1946 to 1980, around there. And I'm the first African American winner, and the first time there was 3 state champions in the same weight class, the same class, 3 state champions, and one was a knockout key, knocking out everybody. And sports writer picked him to beat me. He said, all Hudson's a better boxer, but all he needs is one punch. He give me all like all the rest. And when it was time to go to the ring, just prior to going to the ring, he was hitting his gloves. He was gloves and looking back at me, looking up at the ring. He wanted me so bad. He almost ran to the ring. And he came out and swung 2 punches. I threw my right hand down and went.
Okay, so you also worked for General Motors for some time.
Yeah, I went to a 17-year civil rights lawsuit against General Motors. And I was awarded, and I was well, they said it was discrimination, but through the pain and suffering that I had to suffer and go through, they settled with me.
Okay.
And my doctor said, it's not worth what you're going through. He said, if you want to come out, I take you out. I don't know how it's done, but so we're doing it. And he took me out, and I had 28.3 years in. And I was off on sick leave for 2 years. And otherwise I would have had my 30 years in.
So do you think your boxing at all, and I'm asking this just because of the information that we have now that people didn't really understand in the 60s and when you first started boxing, do you think that contributed to your Alzheimer's?
Well, they said it did.
Okay, they said, the doctor said it did.
The military did.
Oh, the military said it did. Okay. Yeah, because we, with the movie Concussion that Will Smith did, and just some of the other information that we have now about sports and head injuries.
Right.
It has long-term effects.
Right.
And sometimes they don't manifest till later on.
Oh, yeah, it's true. That's true. What to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I have some great experiences in boxing, and a lot of experiences in my life, going through a 17-year civil rights lawsuit. And it said the life from August of 1983 to the summer 2000. My faith is the only thing that kept me going. My faith in Jesus Christ. When I first became a Christian on 9/5/1972, the next day I was telling everybody at General Motors that I was filled with the Holy Spirit. I changed my life. And nobody believed it really. But it's almost 50 years now. Still going strong. I'm single for 6 years. The Lord blessed my wife through 2 grades.
Okay. Now, when you came to the book festival last year, did you bring, was your wife with you?
No, she didn't come.
Oh, okay. I couldn't remember it because there was so many people there, and some people had their spouses with them.
Yes.
And so, well, we did get a nice picture of you that we posted.
Yeah, I saw that.
You saw it, okay. And you were looking right at the camera, so that was good.
Yeah, going through that 17-year civil rights lawsuit, they said it was the 3rd longest civil rights lawsuit on the books at that time, and it went on a couple of years after that. So it could have been the longest. But the only thing that kept me going was my prayers was continue being answered. And that's what kept me going. I kept going. And no one said it could be done, but I was blessed with out of court settlement. And all my kids got $200 a piece, $600 a lump sum, and $200 a piece, and about $13,000 a lump sum. And I gave all of it to them. I didn't take anything from them. And I asked them, do you want to put 10% of that $13,000 in the tithes? They said, yeah, but it was only about 6 and 10, something like that, And they said, yeah, so they put 10%. I took 10%, and gave it to the church. And I've been blessed all through my life. And I was single for 6 years, but the Lord blessed me more. I proved myself to Jesus Christ. I went on a fast. Soon I received the baptism of the Holy Spirit. The next day, I went on a fast. And I averaged 2 days a week without bread or water or anything for 6 years. For 6 years. That's right, you're single. And the only thing kept me, I believe so much that the gift was in operation, everything. But the church the Lord led me to said, well, the gift was not in operation and that. And I found out after, so many years that it is right. The gifts are not, everything is done by work and with faith. But the gifts are to come back. For 7.5 years ago, so 40 years back in the time where Jesus and those apostles, when the apostle was killed off, all except Apostle John, and God preserved him because he wanted him to write the book of Revelations, and that's why he was preserved. All the rest of them lost their lives, and that lasted for 40 years. The Bible speaks of 40, it rained 40 days and 40 nights, Moses had 3 periods of 40 years in his life. When God called him, he was 40 years old, and then 40 years old, and then 40 years later, he led his people to the promised land. Then 40 years later, and that was led his people to Egypt, and then he was there for 40 years, and that was 80 years old. And 40 years later, he died. 3 periods of 40 years. It remained 40 days, 40 years, 40 nights. And the church operated in perfect working order for 40 years before all the apostles killed Apostle John, and God preserved him so he could write the book of Revelation. He wrote the book of John and 3 epistles and the book of Revelation. And so we see the church is going to, 2 Peter 3 said, beloved, I will have the ignorant this ministry a day unto the Lord is 1,000 years, 1,000 years a day. Well, Christ didn't come in 24-hour days, only they left. It's 1,000 years per day. And so we're getting close to that 7th day now. And 2 Timothy 3:13 said, evil men that seduce wax worse and worse. Iniquity shall abound, and love of many shall wax cold. You see all these things that happen today. I've been taught all these things going to happen. We've been together since 1913. And our church started on Ohio River 1913. And still going strong. So and they're all white and from the South. So, and my mom started coming there. We moved here from Arkansas to Lansing, and my dad, mom, and they just go to church of God in Christ, this couple that had 3 kids, and his son was about 17 years old, and they ran about 3 revivals here in Lansing, and he decided to start a church up north. And decided to move up north. And my mom went there through the revivals before they built a church here. And then she stopped going to church and started going there. And that's where I was.
And
so
that was the foundation of how you built your faith, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm. That's how it's healed because of the teaching. It says on this word here that I can let you in. Yes. Or you can let me in.
Okay, I believe you might be able to see your face now we have about 5 minutes left. But while we're seeing if we'll be able to see you on camera, which I'm not sure we will. There you go. Okay, so we need to just pull it down so we can see the top of his head. Okay, all right. So the other one, the other device, well, I'll just mute it and then we won't have to worry about a conflict. So we need to connect your audio, Mr. Let's see. Well, I think one we have a camera and the other one we have audio. So maybe we need to keep the audio on the other one. Because the other one, I'm not even seeing a microphone on the one with the camera. So if we can, because I muted it, but I need to ask you to unmute the other device that you, it went away. Okay, so I don't know where we are now because the camera went away, but Mr. Hudson was filling us in on his foundation for his faith and how his church was established. And
also how he boxed throughout the military, went different places.
He worked for General Motors.
Yeah,
and
I
then
think he boxed for 5 years. And yes, he did work for General Motors.
and he served in Vietnam,
Mhm.
military, where he continued his boxing throughout his time in Vietnam. And he worked for General Motors, and then he ended up suing them for discrimination. And he won the suit. Well, they settled it. You know, settling is like winning if you get paid.
Right.
So
You just settled for a lesser amount. That's all that is.
right. And well, but you get it sooner because
Right.
you know, they have more lawyers than you have if it's a big company, and they got more
Mhm.
money. They can literally bury you under paper for 10, 15 years. So I think he's trying to connect again. We only have about 4 minutes left, but maybe we can at least, I do want to find out what
Well, I
what
don't
made him
touch on
rely on the Holy Spirit for his healing. And
and then we need to real quickly to give him a chance to at least hold up the book.
yeah, hold up the book and let people know where they can get it. So that might be all the time we have is for him to show his book. And okay, we're back on camera.
And the audience.
So we need to lower the screen, and then we still need sound from the other device. Now he should be sitting in the chair unless you need him to get up too, because that's how we can see him. But we need to, let me ask to unmute and on both of them. Maybe so raise it up a little bit. All we can see is his chest. Okay, lower it just a tad. Thank you all who are watching. Thank you all for your patience. And occasionally we have some challenges, and we just work through them.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
But we can hear you on we can hear you on 2 devices. But let's see.
Well, the other one is muted, so he might be okay.
It is, but I still hear echo. But Mr. Hudson, do you have a copy of your book handy?
Oh yes.
See, it's an echo.
Yeah, I hear it.
Okay, so you have 2 different books.
Yeah. Box of the Year and First Survival Altar, Here by the Holy Spirit.
Okay, well, put them in front of the camera so we can see them.
Okay.
You have to put them in front of your face and then hold them up a little bit. Okay, so you have a book called Boxer of the Year, and then you have the First Survival of Alzheimer's by the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Okay.
When I see the Holy Spirit, the next day I started a fast, and I fasted in 6 years. I fasted over 600 days, 604 days, without bread and water or anything, for 6 years, 2 days a week. And I thought I was really doing something. And I asked, and my mom told me that she fasts two days a week. 2 days a week for 60 years before she passed, without bread or water, anything. That's dedicated. And I thought I was doing something 6. Then a couple of years after I got married, 800 some days altogether.
Okay, but it wasn't 2 days in a row.
Bread and water. And once in a while they'll have a snack at work, and I forget I was on a fast, and I taste, and I start that fast start over again. And I pray every morning and every night. Every morning, every night. Every morning I get up, and every night before I go to bed. I've been doing that since 1972. I'm still doing it. I never quit. I'm dedicated 100%.
So the 2 days of fasting, though, they weren't back to back without food and water, were they?
Pardon?
Okay, the 2 days a week that you fasted, they weren't consecutive days, were they? Because that could, you didn't suffer from dehydration, because that could really.
Well, I didn't drink any water, and if I make a mistake and drink some water, I'll start that fast all over. That's what I was doing.
And so you did that when you started your journey from having Alzheimer's to being healed from Alzheimer's.
Oh yes, and the way the Holy Spirit come on me, I just raise my hand, and like that, it just come up just like that. See, that's the Holy Spirit. That's how I do.
Okay.
That's life within this life. And the Bible said, the Spirit of Him that raised up Christ from the dead dwelleth in you. He said, raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by His Spirit that dwelleth in you. That's right. I got life within this life. I can read the Bible, do the same thing, moving like that. You be singing or anything, start moving me. I can read the Bible, start moving me. Sometimes I get close to someone, that's spiritual, and my hand, I shake a hand and say, move like that. Does that? That's dedication.
Well, I would agree with you on that. Well, Mr. Hudson, we are at the end of our time because we had these challenges. It ate up some of our time. Yeah. But we're glad to have you as a guest on the show. We were happy to meet you at the festival this year. Wow. And hope to see you again soon. You and your wife, take care. Take care of yourself. Okay. You have a great night.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Good night. Okay. So we are going to be bringing on our next guest. I want to make sure. So we did get the winners of the 2 books. It was Janice and Gwen Hayes. Did I put Gwen Hayes on here? No, I didn't write. I didn't put Gwen Hayes on. You know what I wrote down? I was distracted. I wrote down Carl Weber's instead of Gwen Hayes. That won't happen. Okay. So, and I did want to just remind people about our book for the book club kickback, March 14th. We're reading The House of Eve by Sadiqa Johnson. She'll be on the show that night to discuss the book with the book clubs. So our next guest is one of the winners. We've had the winners of the Children's Book Award that we did last year. And there were five finalists. Well, no, there were 5 finalists in 5 categories, and there was 1 winner in each of the 5 categories. And we've had all the winners on, and this is our final winner that we're having on this week, Ada Aria Okonkwo, and her book was called The Spider's Thin Legs, and she won in the category of African diaspora. So as soon as we get the audio and on camera, we are going to welcome Ada. I don't know if she pronounces her name Ada or Ada Ari, but we'll find out when she comes on camera. And
I think it's Ada.
You think it's Ada? It probably is. I think I got enthusiastic with the Ari, Ada Ari. So I think it probably is Ada, but she'll tell us.
We're gonna find out.
We'll find out. So the audio is connecting, and the camera is showing it's on, but we don't see anything yet. Did you communicated with her? Did she?
Yeah, I sent her a text. So
did she respond back?
No, I didn't hear back from her yet.
Well, because she logged in an hour ago. Maybe we need to call her if she'll pick up. You think? Oh, wait, I think something is happening.
Ada, can you hear? There she is.
There you are. Okay, hi, how are you doing?
Doing well, thanks. How are you all?
Fine. Congratulations on being one of the winners of this year's Children's Book Awards. And you won in the category of African diaspora. And for your book, The Spider's Thin Legs. So do you have a copy of your book? So our audience can see how beautiful that book is. And
thank you so much.
It was so beautifully illustrated, and it was let me say, it was a talked about book.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
When we had to pick among the we had to pick the winner. That was difficult because the five finalists, among the 5 winners, we had to pick one. That was difficult. And so a lot of it had to do with illustrations, and your book was one of them. So
I think that's the secret sauce of a good children's book is
It is.
eye-catching illustrations. They have to be beautiful because kids are visual. If
They
something
are.
they'll pick it up.
So
Absolutely.
tell us how you came up with the idea for the Spider's Thin Legs just as a topic for a children's book.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Nigeria. And I grew up around so much culture, heritage, and legacy, including storytelling. So elders would sit us around and tell us stories. And these are stories that have been passed down for generations. This is a way that we passed on our legacy, our culture, who we are as a people, but also how we shared various morals or how various morals were shared to us through these stories. And I never thought much about it. It's just something that I kind of grew up with. I moved to the United States and I never thought much about it because I was going back home like sometimes even 4 times a year. So it was always something that I had within reach and I never really appreciated as much. But now that I have children and I'm raising my children here in the United States, I realize that they wouldn't have these stories, they wouldn't have these same experiences, and they could lose this culture, this legacy, this heritage just because they're not growing up in the same part of the world that I did. So I really wanted them to enjoy our stories. I really want them to this day, I want them to have as much of the cultural and identity and upbringing that I did. So I take them back home as often as I can. I teach them our language, but then I wanted to share the stories with them. And like you were saying, the illustrations are such a key part of sharing stories with such young children. So I wanted the illustrations to be something that could speak to their reality as Americans or African Americans, really. And I wanted it to be something that could really translate the idea and the concept, but for the children growing up here. So that's how I started. And I decided, well, why stop with just my children? There's so many Africans who have been displaced in the diaspora for so many centuries, right? Both forced and voluntary migration. So this is something that could speak to a lot of different people. If you think of everyone who's doing like their 23andMe, trying to understand where they came from, well, here is a little bit more than just what the DNA is going to tell you. These are some of the stories that you would have had growing up. You know, we think about all the folk tales that we know today, our Cinderellas, Beauty and the Beast. They're still a part of us somewhere in our adulthood because we heard them and loved them as children. Well, I want my children to feel the same way about some of these stories that I do. And then I want to share them with all African Americans because this is part of our history. And then beyond that, I want everyone to know who it is that we are, where we came from, right? So Africa is more than just this place that you hear about or talk about, or African Americans is more of just these people who have a specific like skin color, but we have a culture, we have history, we have stories. And just illustrating it this way and bringing it in this way is a very easy way to, you know, share who it is that we are with so many different people.
Okay, now we had a debate. Well, it wasn't really a debate. Is your first name pronounced Ada or Ada?
So my first name is pronounced Ada, but when I moved to the United States, I found that was really difficult to pronounce with the accents. So I Americanized it to Ada, but I almost never correct anyone if they say Ada because none of it's correct.
Well, we're going to call you Ada if that's the correct way to say it. That's the way we'll say it. But I think you said more like Ada.
Ada.
So the accent is on the second syllable.
Correct.
In Nigeria. Ada.
Yeah.
But
I
well,
like to respect people and say their names correctly.
see, I thought it was Ada because of the Ari. It just seemed like it went with it. You know, they went together. The pronunciation went together. But
Yeah.
does it have a meaning? I know a lot of African names have a meaning.
So Ada is actually a title. It means first daughter. And Ari is my father's name. So it's first daughter of Ari.
Oh, okay. Okay. And Okonkwo, is that your maiden name or your married name?
Married name.
So your husband is Nigerian too?
Yes. Ex-husband now. But
Oh,
yes.
okay. Well, it happens.
Get it right.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens. So how old are your children?
I have a 5-year-old and a freshly turned 4-year-old.
Oh, so two little ones. So
Yeah.
so are they reading? Yeah.
Yeah, well, my 5-year-old, she's in kindergarten now, so they're learning their sight words and things like that. But they knew right away that their names were in these books because my first book was dedicated to my son, my second was dedicated to my daughter, and so they could read their names there. They definitely recognize their names in the books.
Oh,
So,
okay.
do you get your ideas from them?
So these stories that I write, they're all folk tales. They've all existed for
Okay.
centuries or generations,
Oh,
but I definitely drew my inspiration from my children because like these are stories that I wanted them to have. I don't think I would have been an author if not for my children. So in that sense, I get the inspiration from them. And then also, whenever you write folk tales that have existed in the public domain for generations, you're retelling them, you're rewriting them in your own words. So I write them in the same way that I would want to tell my children the story. So kind of like the tone I used, they all come from the way I talk to my children.
okay. So show us some of the book and just like kind of walk us through the first few pages.
Sure. So this first book actually, and I have a couple if I can show
Oh,
here, but
sure, yes.
so this is my first book, The Spider's Thin Legs. And then this is actually the first story I wrote down, but I ended up publishing. Second, it's The Turtle's Cracked Shell. And then this one is coming out in April, The Lion's Promise. The cool thing about my books is that they're each from a different country in Africa. So on the back, you get to learn about the specific country that the story comes from. So you can see like this one is from South Africa. So now
Okay.
children are learning that, oh, there's more than one country in Africa, and they can kind
Right.
of put the name and where it's located. And then on the inside flap of my book, each one also has these really cute fun fact cards, or I call them culture cards.
Okay.
So, in addition to learning where this book comes from, you get to learn about the culture and the traditions of the people who brought the stories to us. So, each book has like unique culture cards specific to that culture. Again, talking about, all the different people who've been displaced from the diaspora for generations. As we give them back a piece of their heritage and give us all back a piece of our legacy, I want more than just the stories. I want a lot more, like the culture, the people. So this one is a story from the Ashanti Kingdom in Ghana. It's about Anansi the spider. And so welcome to Ghana. And this is our friend Anansi. Anansi is well known as a trickster in a lot of Ashanti folk tales. But this one talks about how he was tricking people and ended up getting very long and thin legs because originally spiders had very short, thick legs, as you can see in this version. So in retelling this, I wanted it to really speak to young children. So you can see Anansi's really cute. He's a really young boy here. He's playing outside in the yard, and his mom is here watching him like our mothers all do when we're playing around, right? Very relatable.
Okay.
I'll also share this next page with you, but this is kind of like the key piece here. So his mom asks him to run an errand. Let's see if you can see. That's his mom asking him to run an errand and get some loaves of bread over to his grandmother's house. And she says here, I don't know if you can see the text, don't stop anywhere, no stopping, no chatting, go straight there to your grandmother's house. Of
Okay.
course, do we think Anansi's going to do just what his mom says?
No.
And so I won't ruin the plot of the story, but
Right.
basically, he didn't listen to his mom, and now spiders have long legs. So the moral of the
Okay.
story: listen to your parents.
I love it.
Again, beautifully illustrated book, and we all loved it, and it was an unusual book.
Interesting.
It was different from we didn't have that many books that weren't about people. I mean, you turned a insect into a character. Some people had books with dogs and things like that, but you actually put a spider on the cover, which made it different, something different for children to talk about. And a lot of people have a fear of spiders, so then you made it relatable for children, and that's great.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of the work was done by the creators of these stories, right? These folk tales.
Yes.
But but I've seen a lot of pictures or images of Anansi, and he looks like a scary spider. So my kids are scared of spiders, and so I knew he had to be a very friendly looking spider.
Well, it depends on how big the spider is.
Yeah, my daughter's scared of them, and they can be tiny. I'm like, when she'll be calling me, Mom, there's a spider. And then I say, okay, you could have stepped on that easily.
It reminds me of my parents because they grew up in rural Nigeria, and so they, they're very used to a lot of like the wildlife, but also different kinds of bugs. Versus us, we grew up in the city, and I'm scared of pretty much every single bug. And my dad will look at me and he's like, "What are you doing? What are you? What is this?" So yeah.
Yeah, I also like the fact that you have the different parts of Africa on the books, because a lot of people are, and I'm not well versed about Africa. I do know that there are many, many countries there. I haven't been, but some people think Africa's like Australia, a country and a continent.
Right, right. Yeah.
You know.
And that's why I really like your books, because you're giving a history lesson and you're giving a geography lesson all at the same time. And then people understand that. And then for me, sometimes I just forget and I say Africa, a country, and I know Africa is not a country, it's a continent. But then when you start to name the countries in Africa, you realize that Africa is huge. One of my favorite TikTokers is a young lady. I don't know if you've seen her. She's an African young lady on TikTok, and she takes silly assumptions about Africa, and then she explains them in such a way to make it seem like it's real. Like she says something like, Africa is very small. You can actually walk to Ghana from Uganda. Africans really don't have water. We don't have telephones. And then she says all of this, and you're sitting here like, what is she talking about? And you realize that she's very sarcastic and she's really fun. So I say all of that to say is this is how I think people are getting a better education about what Africa is. We're wanting to know more about Africa. More people are going to Ghana now. More people are, like you said, are doing the 23andMe so they can learn their history and the tribes that they may have descended from. So I'm here for it. I love it. One of these days I'm going to make it to Ghana.
Yeah.
Or
And
Nigeria. Or
yes,
Nigeria.
or Nigeria,
right. We have these jollof rice wars, so just eat our jollof rice and not the Ghanaian jollof rice.
In mind.
Yeah, my daughter went to a private Christian school in middle school, and it was 97% white. And she, there was a conversation one day, and this was when she was in the ninth grade. So she went there for 7th and 9th, and there was a conversation about Africa, and one of her classmates, who she thought was her friend, said, "There's only one river in Africa." She was serious. And this is how ignorant. And my daughter at the time, she didn't know how many there were, but she said there can't possibly be one water source for all those people. Illogical. But this is how ignorant. And these were supposedly very well-educated children, but they just were not only ignorant about Africa, but dismissive, saying that the whole continent, and I'm sure she was talking about the Nile. And that's because she heard about that because the Bible, so that was it. And then my daughter took the proof the next day that it was 60 something rivers in school. And I asked her what was the feedback, and they just like shrugged their shoulders.
Yeah.
Well,
one of the things that I do, and I'm really passionate about, actually, I visit schools. So I'm actually right now on tour for Black History Month. I visit schools and libraries, and I put on my program, which I call African Storytelling Reimagined. So it centers around the books that I have, But as you can see, the books themselves have the geography piece, they have the cultural piece. I bring
Mhm.
that to life because these children are such sponges. So anything you
Yeah.
feed into them today, they will soak up and they will retain for such a long time.
Yes.
So in my sessions, we actually take an entire tour. We travel to these countries. We learn to dance. So right now I'm touring with the Spider's Thin Legs, and we're learning the Azonto, which is a dance from Ghana. We're learning this trendy dance from Ghana called One Lege. I also bring with me, I bring kente cloth. We learn about the kente cloth. These kids get to dress up in the kente cloth, krobo beads. I bring instruments with me. They learn about our different chores, the way we back babies. And I mean, school after school around the country, they are just loving and eating it up. But this helps to combat some of these things in a very fun and very entertaining, hands on, immersive way for children. So, for those who thought that Africa, who maybe really did think that Africa had just one river source or just was one big continent with like just some homogeneous country, now
Mhm.
they're learning about the Ashanti Kingdom of Ghana. They're saying it. One of the activities I do for my older kids is I actually have them find out what their name would be in the Ashanti Kingdom, because in the Ashanti Kingdom, you're given a name based on the day of the week you were born, if you were born a boy or a girl. And so imagine them going to the calendar, finding the day of the week they were born, then mapping that to what their name would be in the Ashanti Kingdom. This is all like contextualizing what Ghana is. And this is just one country. So you can imagine doing this for multiple different countries. They love it. They're eating it up. And there are two really precious things that I've seen that have come out. I mean, there are many different things that I see that I love about this. But one, I can't tell you how many times some child who you just know would never have thought anything about Ghana or Africa at all will come to me and say, I want to visit Ghana and I want to see that, or I want to experience this. And it's just because of this experience they had. Now we're opening up the African continent and our individual countries to new audiences. We're getting them excited about it, right? The same way we get excited about, I don't know, Europe or somewhere in Asia. I want Africa to be the exact same way. Um, but then also, I see a lot of Africans who just moved to the country who are suddenly so proud, to stand out in a crowd of, like you said, mainly Caucasians or different races and
Mhm.
say, yeah, this is where I come from. I was in a school in Massachusetts, and a teacher came to me and said, I've never heard that boy speak in his African accent until today. Like he was really proud to show off or showcase his heritage. So, I mean, it's so much bigger, right, than a book with a cute spider. It's amazing how we can really like influence people from a young age, and they're going to carry these things with them as they become the leaders of the world
I think
tomorrow.
it's important because I remember not even that long ago, like within the last 20 years maybe, there was such a disconnect between African Americans and Africans, not understanding each other. African Americans feeling that Africans didn't really love them or like them. And then Africans often thinking that African Americans didn't know enough about the mother country. And there was not a whole lot of conversation. And then I'm glad to see that that has slowly changed. And there's been more of an embracing of the culture so that we're learning more about each other and we've actually come together a lot more.
Absolutely. I mean, think about, there's so much migration from the continent, even to this day. I'm an example, and my
Mhm.
children are African Americans in the truest sense. I mean, I am too. I'm an American citizen, but my children were born in America to African immigrants. And so they're living this dual culture. And
Yes.
so while I'm also learning a lot about the African American experience through their eyes, I still want them to also have that bit of our culture. And that's why I said, why stop with just my children? Why not share with everyone that they're going to come in contact with and let them all be more aware? I mean, we're only going to be a better place the more aware we all are of different cultures.
Absolutely.
So
Beautiful.
how extensively have you traveled the continent?
Well, I am in Dallas right now. I'm going to be in Rhode Island in a few weeks.
Well, I actually meant the African continent, but you can tell
Oh,
me
the
where you've
African,
been in
yeah,
America
sorry.
too.
Well, so most of my travel, I should say, is virtual, but I've really mainly been to, so my stories are Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa right now, and I'm looking to East Africa for my next story.
Okay.
But as far as physically traveling, I'm ashamed to say I've been to Nigeria and to South Africa so far. I
Okay.
am looking to do a little bit more because one of the things that I'm doing with my books, 10% of everything that I get from the books and from the story times and readings that I do, I donate to orphanages around Africa. So I have teams who help me do that, but I want to be able to actually go there in person as well, hear some of these stories firsthand, and also like meet the people who are hopefully benefiting from what's coming out of stories that were just meant for or designed for them in the first place. So now that I'm sharing it over here, I want them to be able to benefit from the, the revenue that I'm making, basically.
Right. So what do you do when you're not writing children's books?
I work full time and I'm of course a mom of two kids. And so a lot. And then I'm also, working on the business aspects of being an author. So school visits and library sessions and all the other things that come along with it. So really busy.
Okay. So when you submitted your book for the awards, how did that go? I mean, how did you hear about it? And then what made you submit? And then how did you respond when you heard that you were a finalist and then a winner?
So I don't remember how I heard about it the first time. But I've tried a number of different things as an author just to kind of get the word out there of what it is that I'm doing. And so somewhere along the lines, I came about submitting for this award. And initially I was like, you know what, I'll probably never get it, just whatever. And so when I heard that I was a finalist, I was really excited, because there's a long wait period, right? And
Yeah, well,
so
depending on when you submit,
of
some
course, of
people
course.
wait till like the last week. So they hear sooner. They get
So
their answers
true.
sooner. But if you entered during the early, because it is a long window, submission window.
Mhm.
And then that's because some books are coming out, but they hadn't come out yet. And so we want to
Mm.
make sure people know that they can submit a book up until the deadline date.
Makes sense. Makes
Mhm.
sense.
Right.
Yeah. Well, for me, it seemed like, oh, wow, this again is back. And so when I heard I was a finalist, I'm like, oh, this is good. Like I was celebrating just that. I put it on my social medias and everyone's excited for me. And then suddenly I had it on my radar. And I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen. I was trying to be calm about it, trying not to get too excited or not build myself up so that if I didn't win, I still enjoyed the euphoria of being a finalist. So to get that I was selected as a winner was just amazing. It was exciting. And of course, now I can put the bragging rights that I'm an award-winning author, which is amazing, as you can imagine. So thank you so much for selecting me.
Yeah, those little credentials, everything's helpful,
Everything's helpful. And I love how you give them stickers that they can put on their books.
Yes.
It makes it all so much more official.
Absolutely.
Well, when we were deciding what we were going to do with the process, there's no need to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. So we looked at about 5 or 6 different award processes to see what they did, and we just picked the things that would work for what we were doing, and as far as the prizes and the stickers, and also the national press release that we do that indicates all the winners, and the award that people can sit on their mantle. So we it was very exciting for us to do it. And I'm surprised to see, has Mary come on here and said anything? She did, because Mary was on the judging committee.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
She said the story and illustrations were a great combination. Great
Oh,
job.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah, it was great. So we're at the end of our time. I didn't realize we were that close. To let people know where they can get a copy of Spider's Thin Legs. And then show us the cover one more time.
Sure. So the Spider's Thin Legs is on my website, which is, you can see, ada-ari.com. And
Okay.
it also has links if you would prefer to get it on Amazon. And then I think by March, my book should be available online at Barnes& Noble's, Walmart, Target, and all those different brands. But also they are coming to the shelves. They are already in the shelves in a couple of different locally owned bookstores, but they will also be coming to the shelves at Whole Foods fairly soon. So that's fairly exciting as well.
Oh, wow, that is exciting. Congratulations on that.
Well, we
Thank
did put your
you.
link in the chat, so
Thank
people
you.
will be able to find this beautiful book and read it to their own kids or give it to their students. But this is a book that definitely deserves to be on bookshelves.
Well, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. And if you're in education, invite me to come to your school. You'll love the program as well.
I'm going to invite you to come to the Black History Month Literary Weekend because we're in the same area. You just live down the street from me.
Oh yeah, you're in the DMV. Please do. Yeah. Is it in February?
Yeah.
Okay. Invite me all the same because I'm like literally touring the entire month.
Okay. I'm gonna email you after this. I'll give
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Okay, well, you have a great evening. Thank you for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
Of course. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Have a great night.
You too.
Okay, well, we are ready for our final guest for tonight. And I wanted to remind people, if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Besides the shows, we also have other interesting video compilations, how-to compilations. We post segments of different shows that stood out. Like if you want to see our book club kickbacks, all of the ones we've done in the past with the individual authors, you can just go directly to those things. So subscribe, and then every time there's something new, you'll get a notification or update, and you'll be able to keep track of all this happening. And this year, of course, we're going to be having the Black Authors Matter TV Awards again this year. And the last show for inclusion in the awards for 2023 will be the March 7th show. So everybody from last year, early March, I forgot what date it was, but the first show in March was the end of it. So the second show in March is where it started. And then this March 7th show will be where it ends. And then the voting for the nominations starts, I forgot the date, but it's like mid-March. So just be on the lookout. Next week, I'll be ready for the actual date so I can inform you then. So we have our final guest, and her name is Telishia Berry. And besides being a phenomenal author, she's also the publisher and editor-in-chief of Courageous Woman magazine. And she's been doing that for 11 years, I believe. So we want to welcome Telishia Berry to Black Authors Matter TV. Oh, we need you to unmute so we can hear you.
Good evening.
Oh, good evening. How are you doing?
Well, first of all, I've got to let you know those magazines behind you are beautiful, very well done. I love the covers.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you have Courageous Men magazine too, or is that just like a one-time thing?
No, we actually started it as a special, but it has kind of taken a life of its own.
Okay. So now, did you become an author first or a publisher first?
An author first. I published my first book in 2012, 2013. And
Okay.
Christian fiction drama, The Baptist Junkie. And so that's my love versus writing. And from there, you know, a lot of people ask me, you know, I want to write a book. I want to write a book. And so I already had Courageous Woman. And so we just kind of moved into publishing books as well as a magazine.
Oh, okay. So you publish books as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you have a lot of things going on, multi-talented. They kind of all fit together though. So, you know, they're all in the publishing, writing realm. So do you, in the magazine, do you take submissions from authors? Do you do excerpts from books? Well, how do you incorporate the author part with the
Yeah,
magazine?
we do because my love for literature and writing and authors, we definitely provide a platform for the authors. We do a lot of specials and spotlights. You know, most of our followers, our subscribers are authors. And so we began to kind of, you know, branch into doing more work for the authors. We do specials. I have Authors Week. We have book parades. We do a lot of book signings. So I do a lot of stuff for the authors because it's, you know, again, that's how I started this whole thing. And my dream was always to write, or to write for Ebony and Jet and do those kind of things. That didn't happen, but God had another platform for me, another road, and it's been a great venture just being able to help the authors. We have them, you know, we have a lot of different specials for authors. People send us their books. I got a room full of books. We have special nights. We do a thing we call Authors Night Live, and some of the authors that we published, we do a big party for them, and it's called Authors Night Live, kind of like Saturday Night Live. So we have entertainment and we have a lot of fun doing that, and it's all virtual.
Nice. Oh, it's all virtual. So how often did your magazine come out?
It's right now, it is bi-monthly, the print publication, and it's still online. We started with all print, but you know, in the transition, we're doing a lot more things, more events, more things like that. So people actually read more online today. So we're featuring a lot of them on our website, a lot of the articles, so that they get that internet traction, to get people that are looking for them online, Googling them. So we make sure that their presence is there.
So the magazine, is it like a physical, let me rephrase, I don't mean a physical magazine, but I know you said it's online. Is it like a flip page magazine, or is it more like a blog site?
It's both. It's
okay.
both. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people have preferences either way. So it's good that you're hitting both preferences that way.
Yeah, a lot of people still like the physical publication in their hands. I do too. I still get I got a lot of subscriptions to magazine, and some people like that print. So we do have that as well as being able to flip through the pages online, as well as having it on our website.
So what made you settle on the word courageous?
Well, I was going through some challenges and on my own life, and I'm a believer. And God just was pushing me to be courageous. And I kept seeing and hearing that word, be courageous, and dealing with the challenges I was dealing with. And I just said, you know what? That's it. I was riding down the street and I seen a sign that said, be courageous. I'm like, that's it. That's it. Okay, I get it, God.
So you got some confirmation.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it happens like that, you know.
Absolutely. Scripture was so many confirmations of like, okay, this is it.
Yep, that's the way it happens. I think words are so powerful, and my word for this year has been consistency. Just trying to be more consistent with what I'm trying to do. So that word was meant for you when it hit you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was dealing with a lot of issues, a lot of fear, and a lot of women in our network and within my circle was dealing with those fearful issues. And, just God just put it on my heart, Joshua 1:9, be courageous. So I said, that's it. It's so many women need to do that. And so that's what the magazine was about in the beginning. We were sharing women's stories that were willing to share their story. I wasn't ready to tell mine yet, but it was so many women that were dealing with things. And, that's how I was looking for motivation and inspiration, and I couldn't find enough. And that's what really started the whole thing. And so when I began to share women's stories, more and more women came, and I knew this was what was needed to be done.
Now, you've been at this for 11 years. How do you keep going? I mean, has there been a time you said, oh man, I'm tired, I can't keep doing this? Or have you always just been able to truck forward? What is your staying secret?
Well, I gotta be honest. It's 12 years now. Okay. And it's been times when I'm like, oh my God, this is too much. I got to do something else. This is too much work, you know. And I have staff, I have people helping, but it's still a lot. And it's been times I was like, okay, I'm done. I quit. And then I get an email or somebody calls me and they're like, you know what, that article that you wrote, or somebody, can you tell me who wrote that? Because it just helped my life. And I was like, I got to keep going.
I'm like,
If it's
okay,
blessing
Lord,
people, like I got to keep going.
I look, I hear your point. I'll keep going now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
So
mean,
how do you,
sometimes I wanted to give up, and then it seemed like I was getting call after call. And one day I just looked up and said, okay, Lord, what you trying to tell me?
Mhm. Mhm.
That's
Mhm.
where you keep going. It's the people
That's
that
it.
you're helping.
yeah,
Exactly.
sometimes when you want to quit, something will happen to give you the affirmation that you need to keep going, which is what you're saying.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Because that happened for us years ago, and I've never told anybody this in public, but I won't give all the details. But we thought we were going to have to shut Kush City down. We were. It was too much. Like you said, sometimes things become overwhelming, and you're wondering, when you're looking forward, you're wondering, how are you going to finance the future? That's really what.
Yes.
So we had decided we were going to shut down, and this is when we had our store, and it's just so amazing. We had the store, we had the online, so we were doing a lot. We got to the office early, well, it's a storefront office, and planning to decide how to do this. And at 8 o'clock in the morning, people started coming into the store spending money. I mean, they just started making big purchases. It was that same day, people, I mean, it was an unusual amount of traffic, and people were spending big money. It was close to Christmas time, but we said, okay, this is confirmation. So I want to say this was probably in 2004, something like that, Ron. It might have been 2003. So you see where we are now. This is 20 years later. So I can tell the
Yeah,
story.
you guys have been around for a long time.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So sometimes it happens. I attribute it to God. Some people may call it luck, or no. When you have a calling that's God ordained, then God will provide.
Absolutely.
And that's
That's
just how it works. I don't know how people who are not believers make
Yes.
it when it's tough, because you have to believe in something to keep going in this world where people can be so negative, and sometimes things seem so hopeless. For some people, you really have to, your faith is what grounds you and keeps you
Mhm.
moving ahead.
Mhm. Mhm.
So how do you decide who you're going to put on your covers? This one. In any
Well,
particular edition, what you have a theme? I know famous faces are always good. And how do you, like, get them to say, okay, yeah, I'll be on the cover of your magazine?
well, we just tell them who we are, what we're doing, and some of them like, yeah, I'll do that. Yeah, I love what you're doing. Like Monique, she was asked to be on our cover and asked why would she do it, and she said, because I want to help some sisters. I said, oh, okay. So, so she's been on our cover. We've had Shirley Ralph.
Yeah, I see Shirley Ralph behind me.
Yes.
Areva Martin, she was on CNN. We've had some really amazing. Vanessa Bell Calloway been here twice. Winans, Vicky Winans.
Vicky, okay.
Tell us about
Yes.
that first time you approached a celebrity and said, will you be on the cover of my magazine? And they're like, Essence? No. Ebony? No.
The first celebrity was Vicky Winans. No, yeah, it was Vicky Winans. And
Okay.
we had, in the beginning, we had, let's see, we've had so many amazing people, and nobody said no. So, I mean, a lot of people now, they want you to pay them, but we've had some phenomenal women, and I live in LA, so I'm connected to a lot of women in the industry. My kids are in the industry, so I
Okay.
you know, get a chance to meet, like Vanessa Bell Calloway is real cool. I'm looking forward to doing some other things with her, and she's been on our cover twice. So it's been some really, really amazing people. Wendy Raquel Robinson, and some hopefuls that I really want to get on.
Renaissance. She's just like rebirth all of a sudden.
Yes, she's doing some amazing things. And I saw her a couple of months ago. She was at an event with another lady who's been on our cover, who wrote the movie Mahalia. And it's a phenomenal film. And she too has been on our cover. So it's been some amazing, you know, it's been a blessing. You know, we just asked, and, you know, God says you have not because you ask not.
Right,
So,
asking you shall receive. You know, a lot of times people are afraid to approach people who are, you know, high profile.
yeah, I was at first, but
if you approach them, a lot of times it's better to go.
Yeah.
If you can reach them
some people are going to
directly.
be rude, and some people are going to be very, very supportive. You just have to have that courageous woman.
Right, right. It does take
to
courage.
approach them and not be afraid to get a no.
and we're sharing a story on them. I mean, most of them want some publicity anyway. They want
And positive, especially positive publicity.
positive. Yeah, Jodie Watley's been on our cover.
Okay.
She's actually been on our cover twice, and you know, I nominated her for an honorary doctorate. So she got that, and the city or the state of Georgia gave her a day. It's a Jodie Watley Day. In July 2nd is named Jodie Watley Day, and it was a phenomenal experience to you know, to be a part of that. And so it all came from her saying yes, you know, many years ago, to being on our cover, and then again recently. So it's just a blessing to have women, and a lot of those celebrities are really, you know, for women and women's empowerment, and they want to be, you know, involved with that, and they want that to want to speak on panels. And a lot of times I've talked to them when nobody ever asks. I'm like, okay, I'm asking. So yeah, so a lot of people think, you know, they're not approachable, or they just wouldn't do it, you know. So you just have to come right and present what you're doing, and some of them will say yeah, like Michael Jai White. He's actually a really cool person. Him and his wife, I call them the beautiful couple. Actually, they're going to be part of another event this weekend that I connected them with, a talk show. Nice. And so they're really amazing people. There's some really cool celebrities out there.
I find that a lot of times if you can connect with this person directly, you have a better chance than if you go through their gatekeepers.
Yeah.
The gatekeepers are the problem.
Yes, absolutely. If you can meet them, you know, at an event.
Right. Even just running into them somewhere.
Yeah.
You can, they're approachable. Most of them, you know, the majority of them. But it's the gatekeepers that a lot of them, I think they don't, if you're not, you know, Essence or Ebony or, you know, or People or you know, one of the, you know, Vogue or somebody like that, they don't even consider you to be important enough to even talk to.
Right.
And so, but if you meet them directly, I know I was able to do that when I went to the Image Awards, you know, meet people face to face, and I asked them if that was how we got Wendell Pierce to be a featured author at the book festival, because one of the years I was nominated, I met him there and talked to him, and he said sure.
Well, if I had a really nice person,
he really is, and if I had gone through this gatekeeper, I would have never gotten anywhere.
Yeah, those gatekeepers can keep the gate.
Yeah, I know that's their job, so to speak, but they don't have the ability to distinguish between something that they should, I won't say take a chance on, but just something that's, it's not all, everything doesn't have to be Good Morning America or whatever.
Right.
And I know a lot of the gatekeepers, they're trying to book people to garnish their own reputation.
That's
you
what
know,
I was gonna say. A lot of times they want to be able to say that they got Good Morning America,
right,
or ESPN magazine, whatever.
Right, whatever.
Say that. and
Right.
a podcast or a magazine that they don't believe fits that level, they want to say no to because it might make them look bad. Like, is that all you could get me? You know?
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
been out around a long time and they're able to go and look or Google you and see who you are and what you do. That matters as well.
and
Right.
a lot of them they'll say, well, who else has been, like for the show, they'll say who else has been on. We have a great roster of
Mhm.
people who've been on the
Mhm.
show, all from every walk of life, anywhere in the book industry. So, but you still get the occasional person who won't. And this is the email they sent. We're gonna pass. This is what that's how they word it.
Yeah. Yeah. We have maybe one celebrity or, one or two that, just said we'll do it later or we'll pass this time, but not many at all that we've
Yeah,
actually.
that's
Mhm.
really good. So are you from Los Angeles?
No, I'm actually from Michigan, from Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
Oh, okay. All right, because I know you
Been
said
here
you were
for
in
20
LA.
years, though, but I'm actually.
Oh, so you've established some roots there,
Oh yeah,
which has helped.
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So
Well,
is your book the latest book that you have? Is the well? Did you kind of give up the book writing for the magazine totally, or are you still writing books?
Oh no, we're doing more books now. Actually, I have so many people now. I'm teaching, more a lot of how to write the book. But
Okay.
we do a lot of anthologies. So we've had close to 300 people in our anthologies. And so I love to do those because people get an opportunity to share a story if they're not ready to write a whole book.
Yes.
And
Mhm.
so that's been really cool. And we have an upcoming book. This is our first all men anthology. It's called The Heart of a Black Man. So that comes out in April, and it's been just a phenomenal experience. We have some really amazing men who are doing a lot of different things. And it all started when I did the first issue of Courageous Men. And it was during the time of the George Floyd murder. And we had 20 men in that issue, and I asked them all how they were feeling because, so many men were being killed by police. And I just wanted to know how y'all feeling. And they all shared what they were feeling in writing. And I took a snippet of that and put it in that issue. And it really inspired me to go further with that and to really allow some of them to share an actual story. And so, but then I got COVID and I couldn't do anything that year. So we're just getting back around to publishing that book. So we have about 22 men right now that are part of this project. So we're super excited.
that sounds like it's going to be a beautiful project.
Yeah, it's the heart of a Black man.
When do
So
you
it's
think that will
some of
be?
the stories.
When do you think that
April,
will be published and are ready for reading consumption?
April.
April. Okay, that's not far away.
Nope, we're in progress,
Right around
right?
the corner.
Yes, yes.
So, can people get back issues of your magazine?
They can always read the stories online. They're forever on our website. And we've had some website issues. So if they're not there, it's they can always ask about it, or there may be some parts of it there on the website. But most of everything we've done, we try to maintain keeping it on our website.
Oh, okay. So you have an archive
Mm-hmm.
there where they can just go and look at different issues.
Yeah, they can
And
always go to our website and put the person's name or something like that.
okay, they can search by name or I guess the month of or the edition that it was.
Yeah, so we also on issue.com. So most of the issues are there. They can go there and see. We have links on our website
That's
for
a great
that.
website for magazines.
I didn't even know about that. I knew about newspaper, but not issue.
Yeah,
Oh
I put all kinds of stuff on issue, magazines. My programs, I've started putting those on issue. Like, I'll just give everybody a QR code and y'all scan the program. I'm not printing all those magazines anymore.
yeah. A lot of people are getting away from print because it is very expensive.
Expensive.
if you're not printing, a major run, the short prints that we do, they're very, very expensive. So a lot of people, like I said, I've gone to events and pass out the magazines, and the event is over and I see magazines on the tables. Oh my God.
That's why I stopped printing them. I'm like, I've spent all this money and printed this for you, and you're leaving it on the table, throwing it out as you leave. That's a waste of money.
Yes.
It's money. It's the printed magazine is money. But we had a magazine years ago. So I mean, years ago, and this was in the 90s. So this was before Kush City. So, I've had many lives. So I told you.
I see that, Gwen.
Yeah. I wrote newspaper columns and was a magazine editor, and I was on C-SPAN often, and I was all over the place. And then I had my daughter. Some stuff comes to a halt. But she did travel with us some, but we just decided to go in a different direction when the internet took off. We just, we made a different decision. So, but I understand, we did it for 5 years. So I understand the whole process of printing and assigning stories and deciding what your theme for each issue is going to be and all that. So
I might have missed something. Ada said, what is the talk show?
The talk show.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. I was like, did I miss something?
Did you have a talk show, Telishia?
Yes. It's
Okay.
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 Courageous Women Speak.
Okay, can people still access episodes of the show?
Yeah, we're actually just started again today. So we launched today Valentine's, a special for marriage doctors Nefertini and Dr. Richard Serrano. They are marriage CEOs. And so we talked about how to uplevel your marriage, and that launched actually today.
Okay, how can people find that?
It's on our website, it's all over our social media, and it's on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, so it's on YouTube.
Okay, well, I did put your website in the chat, but I think this is just the magazine, courageouswomanmag.com.
Yes.
Yeah, so I did put that in the chat for people to follow you that way.
Yes, they can subscribe there and they can get on our mailing list and they can find out all the different things that we're doing. We got upcoming anthologies. We got one, couples therapy, focus on people that are couples that are work together, that are have counselings together. So people want to share their stories to help other couples. So we had a really fun interview with the Serranos today.
Okay, so we're almost at the end of our time, at the end of the show. So we want to make sure people know how to reach out to you and Courageous Woman magazine. And so just tell us where they can get in touch with you, your website, or you mentioned you have a YouTube channel, and just where they can reach you.
They can reach us on our website at courageouswomanmag.com. You can subscribe there for free and get all the information, all the things that we do. You can follow us on Instagram at Courageous Woman Magazine or on Facebook at Courageous Woman Magazine.
Okay. Well, Telishia, you have a lot going on. Congratulations on this producing an excellent product, because we can see the quality.
I love seeing an example of a woman who moves in excellence, and I love what you're doing, and I will be following as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And continue to be courageous.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said continue to be courageous, but you were saying something.
Thank you. Thank you. I was just saying, I was thanking you both for having me, and thanking Dr. Pam Perry as well.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, Pam was the hookup. So Thank you so much for being a guest on Black Authors Matter TV.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Okay. Well, Mary Evans reminded me to invite you all. We have an author pop-up event this Saturday in Houston. If you're in Houston, if you go to the National Black Book Festival Facebook page, which you are on if you're watching this show, you'll see a flyer and it has the address and everything on it. So there'll be 5 of us there with, we'll have children's books, mostly, but also books for teens and adults. And there'll be at least a couple of dozen different titles you can choose from. So we invite you out. There's no charge. Just come out and support our pop-up shop. So that's it for this week. We have another amazing lineup for next week, and we are excited about what we have coming up in the coming weeks. You're all gonna love our lineups. So that's it for tonight. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a great week.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.